Okay, so on the first clean page of your social studies section, you should have chapter 1, lesson 1 written at the top. And you should be open to page 10 and 11 in your textbook. Okay, so our first chapter in this book is on the entire United States. The way social studies works for fourth graders pretty much all across the entire country is you learn about the United States, but particularly you learn about the regions, the areas, the separate areas of the United States. So, go ahead and turn to page 12. And we're going to read. Okay, what you can do is put your vocabulary notebook underneath your textbook because you don't need it right now and I don't want it to be a distraction. So go ahead and put it underneath. Put on your face shields because we will be reading. Please put your vocabulary notebooks underneath your textbooks so that you are paying attention. You should have your face shield on. And go ahead and read on page 12. Don't forget to read the title of the lesson. Carla, loud and slow.
Where is the United States? Your homework is very interesting tonight. You will write an email you might send to a student in China. Your email you write, I live in the United States. The student in China might not know where United States is. Your mother said. She smiles and points to a globe of the world across the room. Try looking at the globe. It will help you direct where
Not direct. What does that word say, Carla? It will help you
describe where the United States is on Earth.
Good. So you can tell somebody, you can meet somebody from another country and say, I live in the United States. But if they're not from here or even near here, they may have no idea where exactly that is. So this whole lesson is going to be how to describe where the United States is. So if you're looking at a map of the world, how can you tell somebody the United States is there without actually pointing at it? Okay? So, thank you, Carla. At the bottom of page 12, we see just the United States. We see the 48 continuous states. That means they touch. And then the 2 states that do not touch, Alaska and Hawaii. Just to let you know, the Friday before Thanksgiving break, you will have a test on all the states. You will be given a blank map, and you will have to say, this state is New York City. I'm sorry, this state is New York. This state is Florida. This state is California, and so on for every single state, all 50 states. You also have to know the abbreviations. But you have like over 2 months to prepare for that. I'll be emailing your parents probably in a couple weeks. Cullen knows Haley had to take the same exact test. The kids last year had to take the same exact test. The kids the year before Haley's class had to take the same exact test. I had to take the same exact test when I was in 4th grade. That's a test that 4th graders seem to have to take. You have to recognize each state. You have to know the abbreviation, but you have over 2 months to prepare. Okay, so very good. So we see the United States, but if we know that, does that map on page 12, does it tell us where on the globe the United States is at all? No, it doesn't. So, look at page 13. We have to do a lot more than that. Zari, go ahead and start reading on page 13.
Global address. There are many ways to describe a place's location. One way is to give it is on Earth.
Nope, you skipped a really big part. One way is to use your finger, sorry. You skipped like a lot of words. One way. Sorry, read. Point to each word and read it. Don't think about it first. Just point to each word and read it.
Global address. There are many ways to describe a place's location. One way is to give its global address or where it is on Earth.
Good, much better. I think your eyes just shifted, but use your fingers so that you don't accidentally skip. That'll also help to make sure you don't skip lines. Like sometimes when we're just looking, it all runs together and we accidentally skip lines, or sometimes it all runs together and we read the same line twice. So using your finger will help to make sure to keep track of your place. Okay, good. So just like we have an address for where our house is, well, the United States has a global address. Where is it in the world? Keep going, Zari, to tell us how we can tell the United States global address.
Which hemisphere?
Good. Which hemispheres? Don't forget that S at the end.
Which hemispheres? To give a global address of the United States, you can say in which hemispheres.
Hemisphere. Like an F, that PH is an F sound. Hemisphere.
Hemispheres or halves of Earth. It lies.
So, Zari, that's our first word. What is our first vocabulary word? Take off the S. I'm not really sure why it's there. It doesn't need to be. So just pretend that S at the end is not there, Zari. What is that word?
Hemisphere.
Hemisphere. We're all going to say that together in just a second, but let's write it first. Hemisphere. Let's say that word all together. Repeat after me. Hemisphere.
Hemisphere.
Again. Hemisphere.
Hemisphere.
One more time. Hemisphere.
Hemisphere.
Now let's all say it together. Hemisphere.
Hemisphere.
Perfect. And what is a hemisphere, Zari? Actually, we are going to add the S. Sorry. So those of you, add the S. Because what are hemispheres, Zari?
You can say in which hemispheres.
But that doesn't, Zari, the word you can say in which does not tell me what the definition is. Hemispheres are what?
Or halves of Earth.
Good, but that or does not tell me what it means. It's just saying hemisphere also means halves of Earth. So the definition for hemispheres is not or halves of Earth. What is it?
Halves of Earth.
Good. Halves of Earth. Make sure to capitalize that E because it is the proper name for the planet that we live on. Yes, Carla?
Do we need what it is now or verb?
No.
Okay.
It's just like science. Okay, Zari, when you're finished with writing that definition, you can go ahead and keep reading. So we can say in which hemisphere or halves of Earth it lies. Not geographic.
Geographicers.
Not geographicers, but geographers. Good.
Geographers used to imaginary lines to divide Earth into hemispheres. One line, called the equator, circles Earth halfway between the North Pole and the South Pole.
So, Zari, what is our second word?
Equator.
Equator. And what is the equator, Zari? It's an imaginary line that does what, Zari? It's an imaginary line that does what?
That circled Earth halfway between the North Pole and the South Pole.
Good. An imaginary line that circles the Earth halfway between, notice how I did not line up between with equator. That tells me, hey, this isn't a new word. This is part of the definition. That circles the Earth halfway between what, Zari? The
North Pole and the South Pole.
Good. And notice how North Pole and South Pole are both capitalized. That is because they are the proper name for two places. So the equator is an imaginary line that circles the Earth halfway between the North Pole and the South Pole. If anybody has a globe hanging around their house and you don't use it, I would love it. So if we look at the globe, we see this line halfway between the North Pole and the South Pole. That is the equator. Now, is that line real? If we go here to Borneo, are we actually going to be able to see that line in the ground? No, it's an imaginary line. But it cuts the Earth in half between the North Pole and the South Pole. So Zari, when you're ready, keep reading.
Every place north of the equator is in the northern hemisphere. Every place south of the equator is in the southern hemisphere. Because the United States lies north of the equator, it is in the northern hemisphere.
Okay, thank you, Zari. So if we look at this globe, what Zari just read to us is that everything north or above, because north is up on a map. Not up from where we are right now, that's not north. Actually, that way's north. But if we're looking at a map, everything above, if you go up, that's north. So that means everything north of this equator or above this equator, like the United States, is in the northern hemisphere. Everything below or south, because if you're looking at a map, south goes down. Everything below this equator or south of the equator is the southern hemisphere. It's really easy to remember because north is up, Well, the top half of the earth is the northern hemisphere. South is down. Well, the bottom half of the earth is the southern hemisphere. So where is the United States? What hemisphere is the United States in? Victoria?
North.
The
North Pole. The North Pole.
The northern hemisphere. Good. North Pole is the top of the earth, but the northern hemisphere. Very good. Hey, thank you, Zari. You read a little more than I wanted, but that's okay. I forgot. Zadie, please read next. Zadie, do you know where we are? Where are we? Nope.
Every place north.
That's not where we are. That's a consequence. Another imaginary line. Find another imaginary line. You're not even looking at the right part of the book. We finished that column a long time ago.
Another imaginary line.
Louder.
Another imaginary line called the prime Mediterranean.
Not Mediterranean. Let's chunk this word, because this is probably a brand new word for every single one of you. I will tell you right now, this I makes the long E sound, but that's really the only difference. So, M-E-R would say what? How do we say M-E-R? Use your fingers to chunk it in your book. Cover everything up but M-E-R. How would we say M-E-R? That's a short E. Who can help her out? How would we say M-E-R with a short E? Smith?
Myrrh.
Myrrh. Now this I is just a regular short I sound. So myrrh. Now what do we have left? We're only looking at the I. Short I. I said that. What does short I sound like? Who can help her out? What does short I sound like? Michaela? Eh. So what does it sound like, Zadie? No, we're only looking at the short I. We're only looking at that I. Eh. D-I, remember that I is a long E. And then the last two letters. So, myrrh, I, D, N. Now this word may not come to you, but that is exactly how. So take all of those sounds, myrrh, I, D, N, and put it into one word. Myrrh, I, D, N. How would we say that all together in one word?
Meridian.
Meridian. Now that may not be a word that comes to you that you've heard before, but that's okay because I helped you so that we chunked it so that you said exactly the sound. So start that sentence again, Zadie.
Another imaginary line
Little
called
louder.
the prime meridian.
A little louder, a little slower.
Another imaginary line called the prime meridian divides Earth into the western and eastern hemispheres.
Okay, so what's our third word, Zadie?
Prime meridian.
Prime meridian. Now we're all going to say that together. I will start. I will repeat. You will repeat after me. Prime meridian.
Prime meridian.
One more time. Again. Prime meridian.
Prime meridian.
One more time. Prime meridian.
Prime meridian.
All together. Prime meridian.
Meridian.
Okay. And Zadie, the prime meridian is an imaginary line that does what?
Divides Earth into the western and eastern hemispheres.
Good. An imaginary line that divides Earth into the western. Notice how western and eastern are both capitalized. Eastern hemispheres. And so is hemispheres when we're talking about specific ones. If we're just talking about the word hemispheres, it is not capitalized. But if we're talking about specific hemispheres, the northern hemisphere, the southern hemisphere, the eastern hemisphere, or the western hemisphere, we do capitalize it because they are specific names. So the prime meridian is another imaginary line, it is not real, that divides Earth into eastern and western hemispheres. So we have the equator that divides it into northern and southern hemispheres, and then we have the prime meridian, which is a little harder to see. But it goes all the way across and then comes up the other side. So this is the prime meridian. You cannot really see it as well. You just have to find it. And then it comes back up the other side. So it goes up and down. And it separates Earth into the eastern and western hemispheres. Zadie, when you're finished writing the definition, go ahead and finish the paragraph.
Because the United States lies west of the prime meridian, it is in the western hemisphere.
Good. So, again, here's the prime meridian. Here's the prime meridian. Now it goes all the way around, but since we're looking for the U.S., we're just going to look at this side. But it does go all the way around. Just like the equator goes all the way around, the prime meridian goes all the way around. But here's the prime meridian. The United States is to the west. You know when you look at a map, if you're looking to the left, you're looking at the west. If you're looking to the right, you're looking at the east. Yes, I think you have your hand raised? Oh. So, if we're looking to the left of the prime meridian, I'm going backwards of what I think, so I may be confusing because you guys we're facing opposite directions. So if you look at the west of the prime meridian, the left of the prime meridian, it's the west. So the United States is to the left of the prime meridian, so it's on the west, which means the United States is in the western hemisphere. To the right of the prime meridian is the east, so that means England is in the eastern hemisphere. So what hemispheres are the United States in? We are in two hemispheres. Whoops. We are in what two hemispheres, class? You can give me one. Victoria, give me one. The northern hemisphere. So the United States is in the northern hemisphere. What other hemisphere is it in? That means if it's in the northern, that means it's above, to the north of the equator. What other hemisphere is the United States in? Zari?
The southern.
Nope, there's nowhere it cannot possibly be in the northern and the southern hemisphere at once, because the equator splits the northern and the southern hemisphere. The United States is north of the equator, so it can only be in the northern hemisphere. In fact, the answer is right there in the book. So those of you who are looking at me like you have never heard this word before in your life, or are not even trying to find the answer, it is right there in the book. So we are in the northern hemisphere because we are above or to the north of the equator. We are also in what other hemisphere at the same time? Zadie.
The western hemisphere.
The western hemisphere because we are to the west of the prime meridian. Okay. So that's one way to tell where the United States is. It's in the northern hemisphere and the western hemisphere. Now there's no such thing as the northwestern hemisphere. We are just in two hemispheres at once, the northern hemisphere and the eastern hemisphere. Zadie, keep reading for another way to say our global address.
Which continent? You can also use continents to describe the global address of the United States. The 7 continents are the largest land areas on Earth.
Zadie, what's our next word?
Continents.
So number 4 is the word continents. And what are continents, Zadie?
Continents are the largest land areas on Earth.
The largest land areas on Earth. Who knows what the 7 continents are? I'm just going to tell you right now, if you guys don't know this, you'll be my first class to not know. Tell you that right now. Victoria, tell me one. Smith?
Africa.
Africa is one. Kingston? What? Not the United States. The United States is part of a continent. So we've got Africa. Carla?
North America.
North America. Michaela?
South America.
South America. Aaron?
Australia.
Australia. Victoria?
India.
Not India. India is part of another one. India is a country, not a continent. Zari?
Canada.
Not Canada. Canada is part of North America. Ethan?
Asia.
Asia. There's 2 more. Cullen?
Washington.
Not Washington. Washington is a state. Continents are the largest areas of land. So that means they are too big to be countries. There are 2 that are countries as well, but they are massive countries. They are way too big to be states. So we've got, let's see, Africa, North America, South America, Australia, and Asia. Carla?
Is it
No. Kingston?
I'm trying to see the one that start with the E and then a U.
E and a U. Who knows what continent that is? That starts with E and U.
Europe.
Europe. And there's one more.
There you go.
Victoria. Antarctica. So the 7 continents are North America, South America, Europe, Asia, Australia, Africa, Antarctica.
It's also on the back of the page.
Okay, well, we're not there yet. So I was trying to see if you could name them before. Because you should be able to name them. So the continents are something you learn before you get to 4th grade. Okay. Finish that paragraph out, Zadie. So we know the continents are the largest land areas on Earth. There's 7 of them. North America, South America, Europe, Africa, Asia, Australia, Antarctica.
The United States is part of the continent of North America.
So another way that we can say where the United States is, well, we already know how to say what hemispheres it's in. It's in the northern hemisphere because it's north of the equator. It's in the western hemisphere because it's west of the prime meridian. Well, now here's another way that we can tell somebody where the United States is. It's in North America. Look at this map. North America also includes, look at the map on the bottom of page 13. North America also includes Canada and Mexico. So North America is the United States. It's made up of the countries, the United States, Canada, Mexico, and all of these Central American countries, which there are quite a few. If I try to name them, I will skip some, so I'm not going to name them. But it's all the Central American countries, Mexico, the United States, and Canada. Those are the countries that are in North America. Okay, go ahead and turn the page. And read next, Ms. Folis. So I'm waiting for everybody to be on page 14, and that's good that I'm reading because we're running out of time. If I read the rest of this lesson, we just have these pages that we're looking at. Is that a, oh no, we don't. I'm missing a page. No, I'm not, just kidding. Is that okay? You have to follow along though, because we just need to finish. We have like under 10 minutes. And if I read, we can finish, but you have to follow along. Otherwise, we're not gonna finish and we're gonna have to go back and try again. So make sure you're following along. Use your finger. I don't want to see your eyes up here. Victoria, I'm not sure why you're writing because we're not ready yet. We're going to start relative location. Another way to describe a place's location is to give its relative location. The relative location of a place is where it is in relation to other places on Earth. So remember, related or relation mean what does it have to do with other places? Well, our next word, I'm going to go ahead and erase these. Number 5 is relative location. And what is that? Well, it is where a place is, where a place is in relation to other places on Earth. So we can use, we've already learned how to say where the United States is based on the hemispheres. We've learned how to say where the United States is based on continents. Now we're going to learn how to say where the United States is based on relative location. So where is it in relation to other places? Okay, so we're going to go ahead and keep reading. Between two countries. You can use other countries to describe relative location. We know relative location is where a place is in relation to other places on Earth. So the other places on Earth that we're talking about can be other countries. Most of the United States lies south of Canada and north of Mexico. So go back to page 13 and look at that map on the bottom. We can see the United States. Most of it mainly lies south of Canada. Remember, south is what points down on a map. So since the United States is below Canada, that means we are south of Canada. The book tells us that the United States lies north of Mexico. We know north is the direction that goes up when we're looking at a map. So if if the United States is above Mexico, that means the United States is north of Mexico. So, how can we say where the United States is in relation to Canada? Carla, the United States is what of Canada? You should be on page 13 looking at the map with us, not on page 14. Zari, where is the United States in relation to Canada?
It's east of Canada.
Is it east of Canada? Remember, east is to the right. Is all of the United States to the right of Canada?
No.
So can it be east of Canada?
No.
No. So the United States is to the what of Canada?
North.
North means above. Is the United States above Canada?
No.
No. So can the United States be north of Canada? No, so it's to the what of Canada? Smith?
To the south of
No,
Canada.
the United States is to the south of Canada. Now, where is the United States in relation to Mexico? Mexico is below the United States, so that means the United States is what of Mexico? Answer's not here. If Mexico is below, that means we are above, so we are to the what of Mexico? Kingston? To the north. We are above Mexico, which means we are north of Mexico. We are below Canada, so we are to the south. Remember, never eat soggy waffles. North, east, south, west. When you're looking at a map, not in real life. But if you're looking at a map, it is north is up, east is to the right, south is down, west is to the left. So since we are below, we are down from Canada, we are to the south of Canada. Since we are up from Mexico, we are to the north of Mexico. Okay, let's go back to page 14. In fact, our nation shares its northern border with Canada and much of its southern border with Mexico. That's another way to know that Canada is north of us. Our northern border is their border too. So they are north of us. Okay, we got to finish this quick. And our southern border, our bottom border, a lot of it goes along with Mexico. So we are north of them. A border is a line that shows the end of a place. So number 6 is border. And it is a line that shows the end of a place. So where are we in relation to other countries? Well, we are south of Canada and we are north of Mexico. So now we've added a third way to say where we are. Okay, let's look at between two oceans. Between two oceans. You can also use bodies of water to describe relative locations. So where is the United States based on the oceans? Water covers most of Earth's surface. Most of that water is in the oceans. The United States lies between two of the world's oceans. The Pacific Ocean forms the country's western border. So that means if we're looking at the United States, to the west, or the left, sorry, I need this hand. To the west or to the left is the Pacific Ocean. So that means we are east of the Pacific Ocean. The Pacific Ocean, we are to the right of the Pacific Ocean, so we are to the east because the Pacific Ocean is to the west. The Atlantic Ocean is its eastern border. So that means the Atlantic Ocean is to the right of the United States, so it's to the east. That means we are to the west. It kind of sounds backwards. But if you're looking at this map, here's the Atlantic Ocean, here's us. We are on the left of the Atlantic Ocean, so we are to the west of the Atlantic Ocean. We look at the Pacific Ocean. We have the Pacific Ocean. We have the United States. The United States is to the right of the Pacific Ocean, so that means we are east of the Pacific Ocean. But it's still our western border, our left border. Just like we are west of the Atlantic Ocean, but it forms our right border. Okay? So that's confusing, but it's just because you have to look at where the things are. So just pay attention to what the book says. So now we know how to say where we are in relation to Canada and Mexico. where we are in relation to the Atlantic and the Pacific Ocean, where we are in the hemispheres, and where we are in the continents. Now, your state's relative location. There are ways to describe in more detail where you live. You could name your state and describe its relative location. Most Americans live in one of the 48 states that lie between Canada and Mexico. They say 48 because there's 2 more states, Alaska and Hawaii, but they aren't between Canada and Mexico because Alaska is way up here. Definitely not between Canada and Mexico. And Hawaii is way over here. So again, definitely not between Canada and Mexico. Okay, let's go to page 15. Perhaps you live near the Gulf of Mexico. A gulf is a part of an ocean or a sea that reaches into the land. The Gulf of Mexico is part of the Atlantic Ocean. It forms part of the southern border of the United States. So our last word, number 7, is the word Gulf. And it is a part of an ocean or sea that reaches into the land. We can see that if we look at that map on the bottom of page 14. So quickly finish that definition and then look at the map on the bottom of page 14. We can see the Gulf of Mexico. If you see where Florida sticks out, and then you see where the United States meets Mexico, you can see between them, it's like the ocean is reaching into the country. Carla, make sure that you're looking at the map on the bottom of page 14. Please, you're covering it up with your notebook, so you can't be looking at it. We can see where Florida sticks out, and then where Mexico and the United States meet. We can see that the sea, the ocean, the Atlantic Ocean has kind of reached in to the country to create a gulf. So, how do you describe a place's relative location? You describe where that place is in relation to other places. So the relative location of the United States. Well, we are south of Mexico. We are south of Canada. We are north of Mexico. We are west of the Atlantic Ocean. And we are east of the Pacific Ocean. But if you're asked a question on your homework about the borders, pay attention to the borders. Look at our western border. That's the border to the left. Sorry, your left. Look at our western border. That's the border to the left. What's there? What ocean is there at our western border? Our left border. What ocean do you see? Cullen?
Pacific.
The Pacific. Now our eastern border. That's the border to the right. What ocean is there? Aaron? The Atlantic Ocean. Very good. Now Mexico is not the only thing at our southern border. What else is at our southern border? So look at our bottom border. We have, now this doesn't have a name, but we just talked about what it is. We see that Mexico is part of our southern border, but what else is part of our southern border? It just said it. It said it in the book. We can see it, but the book actually told us exactly what it was. What is it, Cullen?
Canada.
Nope. South, our southern border, our bottom border, is Canada underneath us. At our bottom border, we already know. Part of it is Mexico. The other part is what, Zari?
Atlantic.
Nope, that is not below us. We're talking about the southern border, the bottom border. I literally said the word southern border and bottom border. The Atlantic Ocean is not our bottom border. Victoria? We just read it. In the part that I just read, It said it. We see what it looks like, but the part that I just read said it forms part of the southern border of the United States. What is it? Carla?
This part of the Atlantic Ocean.
What part of the Atlantic Ocean? There's a specific name for it that is not Atlantic Ocean. Sorry, the answer is definitely not back there.
The Gulf of Mexico.
The Gulf of Mexico. Remember I said that and then we went over here and looked like less than 5 minutes ago? And then I said the southern border, which is the bottom border. Now, look at the northern border of the United States, the border at the top. What do we see there? What do we see at the northern border, the top border? Now, it doesn't actually say the name, but we've talked about it, and we know what country that is at the top. What country forms our northern border? Carla.
Canada.
Canada. Thank you for listening. Okay, let's read this summary of Lesson 1. The United States is located on the continent of North America. So that's one way to say our global address. In the northern and western hemispheres. There's another way to say our global address. The Atlantic Ocean, the Pacific Ocean, the Gulf of Mexico, Canada, and Mexico form its borders. So our borders meet all of those things. In the north, it meets Canada. To the west, it meets the Pacific Ocean. To the east, it meets the Atlantic Ocean. And to the south, it meets Mexico and the Gulf of Mexico.